Good evening in Ohio, good morning or good afternoon wherever you are. But I wanted to discuss, especially around the holiday season, when you go out shopping as a visually impaired person, a blind person, and you happen to use your white cane, we always want to make sure, people, the sighted world is courteous to us, but I also wanted to put us on notice too that there is white cane etiquette. When you're around a crowded room or around a lot of people, there's certain things I do personally to make sure that I'm not hitting someone by mistake. Now that happens, you can't avoid it all the time, but I make my best effort to do a couple of things with white cane etiquette, and I want to share that with you today. So here we go. Okay, so I have my favorite white cane with the rollerball tip. So anytime you go to maybe your company is having a holiday dinner, or you're going out with your co-workers or friends or family out to a restaurant, when you fold up your cane, because the tip of your cane has been rolling on the ground, do not sit on the table. Do not do that. What I usually do with my white cane is put it by my feet or in between my feet so I know where it is. Or if I'm sitting in a seat, I sit it right next to me so it's easily accessible. But that's the one thing I remind myself, do not put my white cane on a table that people are going to be eating on, because that's just rude to the other people that are around you. You think it would be common sense, but when I first got orientation and mobility training with the state of Ohio, I forgot that all the time. I would fold it up and just put it on my table because I wanted that security blanket of it just being right there in my fingertips. But as I got used to being out in public and navigating with my cane a lot better, I start realizing that, I was being rude, and that is my #1 tip for white cane etiquette. The next thing I also noticed too is that I have many different white canes. I just don't have my one, even though she's my favorite. I have 3 other canes as well, and I'll make sure in my description box down below I have an older video where I show you those 3 different blind canes and what I use them for. So I'll make sure I'll link that in the description box if you guys want to check it out. But the reason why I have different canes, because these cane tips are interchangeable, so you can change them out. However, I just have different canes that already have the different tips on it, so I don't have to worry about it. This is called a rollerball tip, and this is ideal to use when you don't want to tap. And if you're in a crowded room, moving your cane in a large arc, and I'll show you on my hand, tapping from either side can be very noisy and distracting. And I usually use my pencil tip, and the pencil tip is very, very thin. I'll insert a picture right here when I want to do the tap navigation. But if I know I'm going to be in a place where there's a lot of people and the noise may be distracting and I may not have a great arc to do that, I use my rollerball cane. And your rollerball, you don't have to tap from either side. It rolls, and it's very, very quiet, so it's not distracting. And I just like that. So if I know I'm going to be in an equity place, like a really big space, I'm very cognizant of what tip end I'm using. So I usually go for like a marshmallow tip, which is kind of big and fat, and again I'll insert a picture of that right here, or a roller ball tip. And I don't usually use my pencil tip when I go into like a big equity space that's hardwood floors or something like that. It takes practice, and once you go to places more than once, you know how the space of that room is, you'll know which tools you want to bring. I have a guide dog, Roxy, and there's some situations I do not bring her in. Like if it's really, really, really crowded, like hip to hip people, like at a train station sometimes, I just take my cane. I know it's going to be really hard for people, one, not to touch a guide dog even though they're not supposed to without me knowing it, and it happens all the freaking time. And I don't realize, like I tell people, this is a tangent and I guess a little rant, I always tell people, please do not touch my guide dog, because that can distract her from her job to keep us both safe and navigating us safely to where we need to go. So I had one gentleman that did ask, and Even when I said no and explained to him in a very polite manner, he's like, well, I'm going to pet your dog anyway. And he did. And I didn't really have any recourse because one, I didn't know where he was coming from. And two, I didn't realize he already petted her until after he said that. So just be very cognizant. It's a lot of pre-planning, and I guess sometimes it could be annoying, but it's the nature of the beast. You do have, if you know you're going somewhere, you have to arrange your transportation to and from. You have to know the times to make sure your transportation can't pick you up. You have to make sure that if you have a buddy meet you there, that you guys are very, very detailed on where to meet at. I mean, there's certain things that you have to really prepare for before you make a trip that may have been easier when you had your full sight, but now you just have to be really cognizant to be safe in that environment, to plan out every single detail. Everything is kind of routine and regimented, but like I said, that's the nature of the beast. So that's my tip 2, is about be cognizant about what type of cane tip you're going to use and which environment. And again, some people may, this is just my preference, someone else with a visual impairment and blindness may not use the tap motion with their pencil tip cane on their cane. You could drag it alongside too. It just depends on the person. This is just my preference, so that's, just wanted to share that with you. My third tip with white cane etiquette is the arch. And I'll go ahead and cut away real quick to a clip to demonstrate what I mean. So when I'm outside, I have a lot of arch. See how far away it's from my feet? So I have a wide arc where I can feel obstacles and know where I'm going. That's when I use this type of motion when I'm outside. Sorry for the noise, guys. But when I'm inside, again, in crowded stores or places or things like that, that arch gets a lot slower. I move that up almost close to my body, and I use sighted guide. What sighted guide is that you have a sighted companion that on your right-hand side, and that you grab their elbow, not the other way around. The sighted person doesn't grab your elbow because you're not guiding them. You grab their elbow. They're standing on your right-hand side when they're doing this. So when I have sighted guide and I'm in a crowded room, I move my cane up closer to my feet. I change it to my left hand so that way I can hold my guide by the elbow. And when I do that with my left hand, I'm slowly just kind of running along to make sure I'm not hitting anyone. Now, sometimes it's inevitable. You will hit somebody regardless, even being careful. But when you do, it's no big deal. Just use common sense. If you bump into someone, say, oh my God, I'm sorry, or I'm sorry. And that's it. You know, people understand. But if you go in a crowded room, like, now that's a really big personal circle that I don't think a lot of people could accommodate in a crowded room. So that's tip number 3 that I do with cane etiquette. Also, when you become, I guess it doesn't really matter if you're newly blind or been blind for years, regardless of the tenure of your visual impairment, you're going to be surrounded with people like you, which is an awesome, awesome feeling, and I really recommend it. If you need any type of support groups or anything, I'll leave a national link down below that you can use your voiceover, your screen reader, or your KNFB reader, whatever tool, assistive tool you use to read text to you I want to make sure I was recording, on support groups in your area. So when you are engaging with other people like yourself, and someone may not have already had orientation and mobility training or used a white cane before, they're still in the beginning of that type of journey regards to navigation, it's very important not to, you can let someone touch and hold your cane to see what it feels like, but to be a patient yourself and try to teach mobility to someone else, there's a couple of things that could totally go wrong with that. First is that the blind leading the blind is probably not the safest thing, especially if someone has never been through a rigorous training like that already. Second, with the white cane, the size matters. It's not an all size fits all situation. The white cane, the way you know it fits your particular person, your own being, is that the top of the cane has to come to the pit armpit of your shoulder. So if it's shorter than that, the cane's too small. If it's over that armpit of your arm and it goes past your shoulder, it's too big. It's not going to be a right size tool for that individual. So when you're around your liked visually impaired or blind friends and they haven't started the orientation and mobility training yet with the white cane yet, they can definitely touch it, feel the white cane, know what it's all about. You could talk about it, but I just highly suggest not to try to train someone if they've never been through and gone through the training with orientation and mobility trainer themselves, either through a state program, a vocational rehab program, or a blind school. Leave it to the professionals. And two, if you fall in that trap, you may be getting them used to using a cane that's totally not their size, because that cane that you're showing them with is for you and not for them. So I hope that helped you guys, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm so stoked to be doing all these videos during December for Vlogmas, so that way you guys get to know me better and I get to put out more content to share with you guys, just more so than what I share once a week about my hair or whatever topics. So I've been having a blast. Roxy and I both have been having a blast, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. And like I always say, be you, stay true, and be naturally seen. Bye.